We worship music here.
Okay.
Everyone, please give a big hand to Laura Mvulva. Do you feel like you have been inspired by Miles Davis at all in your own music?
I'd like to think so. I was introduced to his music via my dad, who is a keen jazz listener, and actually the way that I first came about the album that I know I chose today was through a cousin of mine who sings. And actually, she's an older cousin, so when I was a young teenager, I got all of her hand-me-down clothes. And she used to buy designer clothes, which we could never afford. So I got used to expecting every 3 months these clothes. And one time she came with all the Versace bags, plus this CD, which I kind of tossed to the side and took all the bags. And then like a few months later, I picked up the CD, and it was Miles Davis, A Kind of Blue. And since then, it's become an album that I never put down.
Yeah, so that was your introduction into Miles.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my dad, who listens to all kinds of music, really listened a lot to Miles Davis. And actually, my introduction to Miles was through a documentary that my dad used to play a lot on VCR.
So you know it's old.
Yeah, back in the day, right. But I remember watching this strange guy, well, he seemed strange to me as a kid, talk really slowly about this music. And I remember being in the car listening to Miles Davis with my dad one time and saying, I think I'd just done my grade 5 piano, so I thought I was pretty, advanced at that stage. And I said to my dad, oh, I'm listening, did Miles play a wrong note at that point? And my dad was so cheesed off with me, he stopped the car. And he said, I think he was just really dumbfounded by my ignorance. And I was so surprised by his reaction that I decided from that moment I would explore whatever it was that my dad was so captivated by this music. So I kind of made it my mission, because every daughter wants to please a father. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the exploration of Miles Davis. And so then with Kind of Blue, it became my thing. I was always listening to Miles.
Now, I think you're going to have a nice long career ahead of you.
Hope
an illustrious career. The thing that's so interesting with Miles is his crave for change. He always has to change, and he had a transformative nature, and he was a pioneering spirit. He was there for bebop, then hard bop, cool jazz, then going into modal jazz, going into fusion. When you look at Miles' career, do you hope to aspire to do something where you can also transform yourself along the way with different albums, different periods?
Yeah, well, to me, Miles is an icon, and I don't know if I'll never compare myself to him and to his legend, but I really respect and connect with the idea that he often talked about in interviews, this obsession that he had with chasing after something new, something innovative, something fresh, something outside of the box, maybe even outside of yourself. That seemed to be his fuel in music. And that's something that I was drawn to from a really young age. And fortunately, I was encouraged in my creativity to pursue that kind of music making, which I'm glad that I had Miles Davis as a hero. I think also for me, the fact that his music was something that I could sort of walk through all paths of life in. To me, music should be sustainable, should have longevity. And Miles Davis, particularly this album, Kind of Blue, was something that just seemed to fit with all phases of my life. I know that we have soundtracks to life, seasons, that we might connect different pieces of music to, but for me, Miles kind of runs throughout.
I can see that, and also he has so many different styles himself that it can kind of be. I remember I got into like Bitches Brew and got into that whole scene for a while. Now my favorite is the whole modal jazz era of him. But how about for yourself, right at this moment? What is your kind of favorite era of Miles? Is it the hard bop era, or the rebirth of cool, or more of the modal, like Milestones and kind of blue?
I feel kind of ignorant of all of his whole catalogue. I still feel at the beginning of my
Me too.
exploration, but I think I'm kind of excited by it all. The Bitches Brew album, to me, is something that if I put it on today, it still sounds completely wild, incongruous. Like, you still listen and go, what is that? What, you know, what are these sounds? And I was watching on YouTube, which I do often, a show of his the other day. I think it was like 79, somewhere in Germany, 1979. And also the fact that not just with the sounds, but if you're watching, even the way that he's dressed, you know, with these huge glasses. And I think he had this nylon shirt. Just everything about what he was making seemed to me to be out of the box, or what we might consider strange, but he's so, he has so much conviction in it, and he's so connected to it that you're drawn. And so I'm not really sure what era, what part of his story I connect with the most yet. I feel like I'm too young, not literally young, but young in my journey with his music. So maybe ask me in like 3 years' time.
And one of the old adages of Miles was like, don't play what's there, play what's not there. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that way with your own music?
Yeah. When we first put out the first song of my record on radio, I found it strange because it would play like on Radio 1, and that would mean that literally the sense of the sound that you would hear amongst all of the loud, highly compressed stuff, then you would hear this kind of really quiet, spacious music, which is my thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was almost a bit embarrassed of it. But I think that inspiration that Miles gives me, this sense of space, you know, the truth that to me more is less, and is really important to me in music. And to have the courage to do that, I think in today's climate, in mainstream music particularly, to kind of fly the flag for music that is still, and maybe encourages you to reflect, or is something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, well, it's a stunning album. I really suggest people listen to it. Is there anything else you want to say about Miles before we listen to the album, or anything else about Kind of Blue you'd like to share with us?
No, not really. Just know that to me, this is an album that just lives on. I know it's highly debated as one of the greatest jazz albums of all time. I know jazz musicians who would say no, that's not true. But to me, as a piece of work, as a piece of music, it moved me as a 16-year-old who had nothing really to do with jazz. So I think that's important, and I hope that it today in some way connects with you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.